Right now, you have two small structures on your chest that serve you absolutely zero practical purpose. You didn't ask for them. Evolution didn't bother removing them. And yet, here they are. Symmetrical, permanent, completely unexplained. At least that's what most people think. Men have nipples. Every single one of them. Across every culture, every era, every corner of human history. And for centuries, nobody had a satisfying answer for why. But the real answer? It doesn't just explain nipples. It reveals something wild about how every single human being on the planet is built. And it starts before you even had a sex. Here is something most people never learn in school. For the first 6 weeks of your life in the womb, you had no biological sex. None at all. Every human embryo, every single one, begins development using the exact same shared blueprint. Male, female, doesn't matter yet. The body just starts building. And one of the very first things it builds during weeks 4 and 5 are the milk lines. Two faint ridges of thickened skin running from your armpits all the way down to your groin. And right along those lines, the foundations of nipples start forming. No hormones needed, no sex chromosomes required, just the default program running. Then around week 6, something changes. If the embryo has a Y chromosome, a gene called SRY switches on. That gene fires up the testes, which start pumping testosterone, which begins reshaping the body into a biological male. But here is the problem. By the time testosterone shows up, the nipples are already there. Fully committed, the train has left the station. Sex differentiation rewires the internal organs. The testes descend. The reproductive system diverges. But the nipples? Nobody sends them the memo. They just stay. And this is not a design flaw. This is how biology actually works. Now here is where it gets philosophically interesting. You might be thinking, okay, but why didn't evolution just remove them? Over millions of years, surely something would have switched them off. The answer is that evolution doesn't work like a software update. It doesn't go through the code and delete unused features. Evolution only removes things when keeping them causes a disadvantage big enough to affect survival or reproduction. And male nipples? They cost almost nothing to build. They don't drain resources. They don't slow you down. They don't make you more likely to get eaten. They are just there, quiet, harmless, completely below the radar of natural selection. Evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould put it perfectly in his essay collection, Hen's Teeth and Horse's Toes. Traits like this exist not because evolution selected for them, but because evolution simply never bothered to select against them. Male nipples aren't a mistake. They're just not important enough to fix. There's also a deeper genetic reason. The genes that build nipples, ideola including WNT, FGF, and MSX2, are switched on in both sexes because they are essential for females. Selectively disabling them in males without accidentally disrupting them in females would require entirely new genetic machinery. And there has been zero evolutionary pressure to build that machinery. In the simplest possible terms, building a male without nipples would require more work than just leaving them in. So evolution shrugged. And here we are. Here is the part nobody expects. Male nipples are not completely functionless. They are packed with nerve endings, dense, sensitive, wired directly into the same sensory pathways as other erogenous zones. A 2006 survey found that nipple stimulation enhanced sexual arousal in about 52% of men, and for some, that stimulation triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and even prolactin. So while they weren't built for men, they are not exactly doing nothing either. And it gets stranger. In rare cases, through extreme hormonal shifts, certain medications, or pituitary disorders, men can actually produce milk. It is called male galactorrhea. The machinery is dormant, but it is there. All of it. The ducts, the glandular tissue, the whole setup. Just waiting for the right hormonal signal that, in most men, never comes. Darwin himself noticed this. He pointed out that male nipples were remarkably well formed for something supposedly useless, and he speculated that in early mammalian ancestors, both sexes may have nursed young. That hypothesis has never been confirmed, but it has never been fully ruled out either. And there is one more thing male nipples are genuinely useful for. They can warn you. Men can get breast cancer. It is rare, accounting for about 1% of all breast cancer cases, but it happens. And male nipples showing unusual changes are one of the earliest warning signs. The tissue, though mostly dormant, is biologically active. So step back for a moment and look at what this one weird biological quirk is actually telling you. Every human body starts from the same template. For 6 weeks, there is no male, there is no female, there is just a developing person being assembled from a shared set of instructions that has been conserved across mammalian evolution for hundreds of millions of years. The reason men and women share so many features, a similar skeleton, the same basic organ layout, parallel sensory systems, is not coincidence. It is genetic correlation. The genes don't know or care what body they are in. They just run the program. And traits shared between sexes persist not because they serve every individual, but because the cost of separating them is higher than the cost of keeping them. Male nipples are the most visible, most talked about example of this. But the principle applies everywhere. Men have the remnants of a uterus, a tiny vestigial structure called the prostatic utricle. Women have the equivalent of a prostate gland. We are all built from the same raw materials, diverging gradually along a path that started identical. Your nipples are not a glitch, they are a timestamp. Proof that you were once, briefly, undifferentiated. A reminder that the line between male and female biology is not a wall. It is a gradient, drawn late, on a canvas that was already complete. The next time someone asks why men have nipples, you now have the full answer. Not because evolution designed them for men, but because nipples form before sex does. Because the genes that build them run in everyone. Because removing them would cost more than keeping them. And because in the 6 weeks before your body knew what it was going to become, it built them anyway. Evolution is not a perfect engineer. It is a tinkerer, working with whatever is already there, keeping what doesn't hurt, removing only what truly costs. And sometimes what it keeps is 2 small structures on a man's chest, doing nothing dramatic, going absolutely nowhere. But now you know exactly why they're there.